All right, let's dive in. We're going deep today with K-pop superstar Lisa and her song FUTW. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the Vixi Solo version lyrics and the official music video transcript and seeing what they tell us about, her story and kind of the journey she's going through in this song.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting approach because, song lyrics, sometimes they can be a little tricky, right? It's not always a straightforward story. They can be
Yeah.
symbolic, kind of like a puzzle. So it'll be fun to unravel those layers together.
Okay, so right off the bat, the music video starts with this super intense image. Lisa's in like a mental institution, cell block D, cell 13 to be exact. It's a bold choice. So, what do you make of that as like the opening scene?
Well, I mean, right away, it makes you feel this sense of confinement, right? Like you're in this cold, sterile environment. And it makes you wonder, is this literal? Is she being held back in some way? Or could it be more of a metaphor, maybe for the pressure she faces as an artist, particularly in the world of K-pop?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the whole K-pop idol system is known for being super controlled, right? Like there's a huge emphasis on perfection, fitting into these really specific standards. So maybe the mental institution represents those outside forces that are kind of trying to control her image and her expression.
Absolutely. It could be like a visual representation of the industry trying to stifle, her individuality, her creativity. But
Yeah.
then as the song goes on, you start to see this really powerful shift. She moves from that feeling of confinement
Mm.
to one of confidence and dominance.
Oh, definitely. And there's that lyric, it jumps out like, watch me on the stage as they watch me going crazy. Like she's taking back control, deciding how she wants to be seen. But I'm curious, what do you think she means by going crazy? Is it like a rebellious thing?
Ooh, good question. I think it could be interpreted in a few different ways, right? Part of it, maybe it's about a really wild, uninhibited kind of artistic expression. Like, I'm not holding back anymore. This is me unleashed, my full creativity. Deal with it.
I like that. Like her art is a force that can't be contained, but there's also this darker edge to it, wouldn't you say? Like both the lyrics and the music video, they really play up this villain persona for Lisa.
Yes. The villain thing is really fascinating here, especially when you consider that K-pop, especially for female idols, it often emphasizes like sweetness and innocence, right? So for Lisa to embrace this darker, more rebellious persona, it's definitely a statement.
Totally. It's like she's slipping the script on that whole damsel in distress narrative that you see sometimes in K-pop. She's not waiting to be rescued. She's the one in control, the powerful one, maybe even a little dangerous.
Exactly. It's like she's subverting those traditional power dynamics. She's not waiting for permission or approval. She's saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
It reminds me of how some female artists in like Western pop music have also used that villain archetype, right? To kind of reclaim their power and challenge gender norms. Think Madonna, Lady Gaga, they've definitely played with those darker, more provocative sides to push boundaries and tell their own stories.
Yeah, and it's super powerful, especially for women in music. It's like saying, I'm not here to be your fantasy. I'm a force to be reckoned with.
And Lisa's definitely embodying that in FUTW, right? She's not shying away from being ambitious, wanting to dominate. She's actually owning it.
And that's where those lyrics about old Leah come in. It's like bringing in this past version of herself adds another layer to her transformation.
Oh, for sure. That line, I want that old Leah to listen to my old shit. It really stuck with me. It feels like she wants that validation from her past self. Like, look how far I've come. Look at what I've achieved. But there's also this hint of defiance there, isn't there? Like proving the doubters wrong.
Definitely. It's such a mix of emotions. On one side, there's this longing to be recognized by the person who knew her before all this success. But then on the other side, there's this fierce determination to show them that she's overcome all the limitations, all the doubts, everything they might have thought about her.
Like, this is who I am now. I'm not defined by that past. And I think that evolution, you can see it in all these symbols of success that are woven throughout the lyrics, right? The high currency, the designer brands, the crowns.
Yeah, those are interesting, aren't they? Because on the one hand, they represent the material rewards that come with success, especially in K-pop. But then on the other hand, I wonder if they're also hinting at the potential cost of all this fame and fortune.
That's a really good point. Like, is it truly fulfilling or is she giving up something to get all those external markers of success?
It definitely makes you think, right,
Yeah.
about what really matters in the end.
Absolutely. It's like she's achieved all these outward signs of success, but inside, There's still this struggle, this need to prove herself, not only to the world, but also to that past version of herself.
And that's where I think the ocean metaphor becomes really interesting. Towards the end of the song, you get this shift in imagery and language, and this powerful force of nature enters the scene.
Yes. Okay, I'm excited to dive into that. What do you make of the ocean as this metaphor for her journey?
Well, the ocean, right. It's all about depth, vastness, and this kind of primal energy. It can be beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It can create and it can destroy.
So, are you saying like her transformation is like diving into the ocean depths, embracing the unknown, all the possibilities, good and bad, that come with it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking this leap of faith, surrendering to those forces that are shaping her. She's not trying to control it anymore, but she's letting it flow through her.
That's such a powerful image. It makes me think about how, like, a lot of artists, they tap into something deeper than themselves when they create. It's like they're channeling this raw energy that can be both exhilarating and kind of scary.
It's like tapping into the collective unconscious, right?
Uh,
That same source that gives rise to all the myths and legends.
Okay, so we've covered a lot, right? We talked about the confinement and the transformation, the villain archetype, and now this ocean metaphor. And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of FUTW. There's so much more to uncover.
Yeah, there are definitely more layers to peel back here. What's really standing out to you so far?
I think what keeps coming to mind is this sense of duality. Like it runs through the entire song. On one hand, there's this super fierce confidence and ambition, but then at the same time, there's this vulnerability too, right? This longing for connection and maybe even a fear of losing herself in the whole process.
That's such a sharp observation. It really speaks to how complex Lisa's journey is. It's not just about power, for the sake of power. There's something deeper happening beneath the surface.
Yeah, totally. And I think the music video does a really amazing job of visually capturing that struggle.
Mm.
You have these contrasting images, right? Like you see Lisa in the mental institution, and then you see her on stage commanding this huge crowd. It's almost like she's battling these two sides within herself.
It's like she's caught between two worlds. The world that's trying to box her in and the world she's trying to create for herself. And that tension, that's what makes her transformation so captivating.
It makes you think about how we all have those internal battles sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Trying to figure out how our past selves fit into who we're becoming. And sometimes that process can be tough.
It's totally universal. I mean, everyone goes through periods of growth and change, and it's not always smooth sailing. There are always going to be those moments of doubt, those times when you question everything.
And I think that's what makes Lisa so relatable. Even though she's at this crazy level of success, she doesn't hide her vulnerability. She's real about the fact that this journey isn't always glamorous or straightforward.
Yeah, and that vulnerability actually makes her strength even more powerful.
Yeah.
It's like she's saying, look, I'm ambitious. I want to achieve big things, but I'm not going to pretend it's always easy or that I don't have my weak moments.
It's so much more genuine and real than what you usually see from celebrities, right?
Hmm.
It's refreshing to see someone so successful being honest about the struggles that come with it, the internal stuff.
It reminds us that success isn't like a finish line. It's the whole journey. And there are going to be ups and downs along the way, right? Moments of triumph and moments of doubt.
And I think that's what that ocean metaphor ultimately represents, right? That whole vastness and unpredictability of the journey.
It really is the perfect metaphor for the creative process, isn't it? Like sometimes you're riding those waves, everything's flowing, the inspiration is just pouring out.
And then other times it feels like you're drowning, like the pressure, the uncertainty, it's all too much.
Exactly. And I think with FUTW, Lisa's acknowledging both sides of that experience. She's embracing the power and the beauty of creating, but she's also not afraid to acknowledge the risks, the potential for things to go dark.
It's interesting to think about how that ocean metaphor connects back to the mental institution imagery from the beginning. If the mental institution represents those forces that are trying to control her, maybe the ocean is what sets her free.
That's a really cool connection. Like she's breaking out of those constraints and diving headfirst into the unknown. And there's both this feeling of liberation and danger in that.
It makes me think of that line, "I'm lost at sea." On the surface, it sounds kind of desperate, right? But I wonder if it's also about independence, like a willingness to embrace the uncertainty and find her own way.
I think both interpretations work, honestly. There's definitely that sense of being lost, navigating uncharted territory. But there's also this element of choice, right? She's choosing to embrace that uncertainty instead of letting those limitations define her.
And that's what makes FUTW so powerful and thought-provoking. It's not trying to give you easy answers or solutions. It's making you think about all these complicated ideas about ambition, power, vulnerability, the whole creative process.
It makes you examine your own journey, right? Your own struggles, the ways you're shaped by the things around you, and the ways you break free.
I'm really curious what our listeners will take away from all this. What parts will stick with them? What kind of questions will it bring up for them, about their own lives and experiences?
That's what's so cool about music, right?
Yeah.
It connects with people on such a deep level. Something
Mhm.
that might seem like a simple pop song can actually spark these really profound thoughts and insights.
It's a reminder that art can be such a powerful tool for self-discovery and for understanding the world around us. So as we're kind of wrapping up our deep dive into FUTW, the thing that keeps coming back to me is this idea of Lisa being this like anti-hero. She's not afraid to own her darker side, her ambition, wanting power. But then there's also this vulnerability, this desire to be real and authentic, and it makes her so much more interesting than just a simple villain.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart way to look at it. She's definitely going against what people usually expect from a female pop star, especially in K-pop, which often has this very specific image of what femininity is supposed to be.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, in the end, is she a force for good or a force for destruction? Is this transformation something to celebrate or something to be a little afraid of?
Those are really good questions, and honestly, I don't think there's one right answer. I think it depends on the listener, how they interpret her journey and what really speaks to them. That's what's so cool about FUTW. It could be understood in different ways.
That's what makes it such a powerful piece of art, right? It gets these conversations going, makes you think critically about these really big ideas. And in the end, I think that's what Lisa's trying to do with her music, make you think, make you see the world in new ways.
Oh, totally. It's not just about making catchy songs. She's using her platform to explore these deeper issues about identity, power, creativity. And by doing that, she's inspiring a whole generation of fans to question things and embrace who they are.
I've had so much fun dissecting FUPW with you. I feel like I understand Lisa's artistry and her music on a whole new level now.
Me too. I always love digging into a song like this, finding all those hidden meanings and layers.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this deep dive?
I hope it inspires them to go back and listen to FUTW again, but with fresh ears. Really pay attention to the lyrics, the visuals, how the song makes them feel. And hopefully it'll encourage them to think about the messages Elise is sending and how they relate to their own lives and experiences.
That's a great point. Don't just listen to music passively. Engage with it, question it, let it spark your own ideas and interpretations.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Music is meant to be enjoyed, to be explored, to be shared. So go out there, dive into the world of music and see what you discover.